this one thing remains the same. Hometown people that are your friends serving you every day to meet your financial needs. We want to see you grow and prosper. And when you ever have a need, you'll get personal attention right here at home, not in some far-off corporate office. Number one in customer service. Apex Bank of Camden, Benton County's best bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Operation 7570 on this Saturday morning. Sun shining out there, still cool, but hey, everybody's glad to see this sunny day. Going to warm up a little bit, and more warm weather is expected throughout the first part of the week, I think. Then who knows, may have another cold snap next weekend. We'll talk about that here as we get closer to that time. May talk about it this morning because our guest is going to be Ben Richardson, a weather spotter from here in Camden, a certified weather spotter with the National Weather Service. Going to talk to Ben in just a moment. But before we do that, let me remind you of something going on today. This is going to be taking place at the National Guard Armory in Camden this afternoon between 4 until 7 p.m. It's sponsored by Camden American Legion Post number 102, and it's going to be their second annual chili supper, and serving time, like we say, from 4 to 7. Hot dog, bowl of chili, dessert, and a drink, all for $8. All the proceeds and donations go to support youth programs and scholarships for Benton County students. That's sponsored by the Camden American Legion Post 102. So we hope you'll keep that in mind. Mike Lawler sent me that message here a day or two ago. Wanted to be sure that I got that out, and we certainly appreciate the folks, the veterans of the American Legion Camden Post number 102. So support that chili supper this afternoon between 4 and 7. And Ben, I know you're a veteran and military very close to your heart, and that's a good event. So we hope they have a good crowd today.
They believe it. They do a lot for the veteran communities. You know, a lot of like myself, a lot of veterans come home and you know, we miss the camaraderie, we miss the structure we had in the military, and groups like that, they really, you know, try to help us out, bring us all together, and bring back some of the good times.
Absolutely, and as we said, our guest this morning is Ben Richardson. He keeps us updated anytime severe weather moves across this area. We had a system move through just a couple of days ago. We're going to be talking about that, but Ben, welcome to the program. Thank you again for being with us today, then, and when is spring coming, first of all?
Meteorological spring is not far away. It's right around the corner. But from what I can tell, looking at the patterns, you're looking at the same ones that I'm looking at. I think we got a couple more cold snaps along the way before we quite get there. Like this morning, when the storms came through, we were 60, 64, 65 degrees. And this morning, when I first got up, I had frost on my car with a chilly 23 degree outdoor temperature. So, you know, we're at that time of the year, and that's, believe it or not, what's swinging the severe weather in our area is the cold fronts constantly trying to push the warm out of our way.
Are the weather gods up above? Are they having a royal rumble right now? Are they fighting for winter and spring at this time of year?
It's pretty much exactly. They're both trying to stay in control, and you know what I mean. We go through this pattern every year. You know, we have severe weather seasons twice a year. Unlike a lot of people that have it once a year, we have it on both sides of winter. We have it in the beginning, we have it on the end, and you know, it's just where we live. It's geographical. It's everybody tries to put titles on things now, and oh, it's global warming. Oh, it's this, it's that. It's you know, everybody's trying to point a finger at something. If you look through the history, this is nothing new. Since they've started really recording weather events since like 1953 is when they start to get accurate. You will see these patterns over and over and over and over again over the years, and that's a lot of what our forecasts are based off, because we've seen this before. We know how it's going to affect us.
Well, before we actually talk about the system that came through just a couple of days ago, and we'll get into that in just a moment, Ben, but first of all, we've had you on the program the last 3 and 4 years. I appreciate you keeping us, Luke and Dylan, and our radio community up to date, and with your activities on Facebook. Thank you for what you do. But first of all, give us some background. Who is Ben Richardson? We talked about military, and how did you get involved with weather?
Believe it or not, I had some extra GI Bill money. This all started for me, Lord, it's been 20 plus years ago with up in Illinois. I was stationed up there at the time with the military. College at DePage was running a meteorology, an intro meteorology class, and I was always interested and wanted to do it. And I went into it strictly with the chasing background, though. I wanted to chase storms. That was my passion, and I did it for a lot of years out west, Wyoming, Colorado, areas out that way, Kansas, and then, you know, I got hurt in the military and got retired and put out to pasture, and you know, just because the body is tore up, the brain still works, and it's been basically the reason for the face page and the reason for our relationships and everything else is what I've learned over the years shouldn't go to waste. And you know as I do, when you were part of it, when we first started all this 5 years ago, Bobby, we had nothing. Remember, we had absolutely nothing in this county. Now we have a code red alert system. Now we have an active spotter network. Now we have a weather radar that's being installed as we speak. It's just a steady steamroll. And as part of that, within the past 2 months now, even Benton County Electric, you know, they're one of the biggest sponsors of the Code Red system. In other words, they're part of one of the biggest reasons we have the Code Red system here in the county. Well, at Scott Owen's request, I talked with the folks that I know at the National Weather Service, and Benton County Electric now receives the same weather briefings the same time as our emergency managers, as I do, as the TV, as everybody else, just because he wants to be more prepared. And everybody is making an effort. You know, 5 years ago, we all seen the need, and we've all come together. And we're filling that gap more and more and more every day.
This has to be, going back 5 years ago, Ben, as you mentioned, you and the others, the county officials at the time, and still some county officials there as well, but this has to be a partnership. It's got to be a
Correct.
Partnership between local government, the Weather Service,
Yes.
just individuals to bring it all together and, get it to where you want it to go.
Yeah, everybody has their role. The National Weather Service started this program, the Storm Safe Community Program. They started this over 10 years ago. But the people need to take the initiative. Because believe it or not, in order to earn that certification, there's a stack of paperwork that's 1.5 inches thick. Part of that is the requirements they have. And one of the requirements they have is the triple redundant notification system. For us, it's Facebook, Code Red Alert System, the weather radios, and the local dispatch. We have 4 means at any time we can get notifications out to the public. But unfortunately, like this last storm system showed us, there's a reason why they want to have all those ways to communicate with the public. About 2 hours before that last system hit us here in Benton County, the Vail weather radio repeater went down. That's the one that controls your alert here at the radio station and everybody around the county's weather radios, meaning they got nothing but static 2 hours before a main storm event was coming in. So we kind of went into panic mode. Everybody, shifting and moving, and Mr. Key sent the code red out to let everybody know to change their radio station on their weather radios. It's just 2 hours before a storm, and that is all based off of that checklist that I have from the Storm Safe Community Program. I have to monitor this. It involves everything from communication to a checklist of the public to shelters and you have to complete this whole list, and they give you an immediate checklist. So I check my weather radio. I make my communications. The radio station knows. The power company knows. Everybody. That's my role, is to make sure that you guys know. As the ambassador, I make sure the information goes both ways. It goes from us to the National Weather Service, and from the National Weather Service, I got to make sure you guys get it. So as long as that system works, it trickles down and the public gets it. And the system so far, Bob, has worked. I mean, we filled the gap when there was no weather radio. We filled the gap with one that was standing by outside.
In the state of Tennessee right now, you mentioned the Vail radio that went down, and of course there are other repeaters. There's other radios out there. So when it goes down, what's the next best?
Waverly.
Okay.
Waverly has a station that will also send Benton County alerts. Lobelville also has a station that sends out Benton County alerts. But the thing is, that's not our primary repeater. Per the National Weather Service, our primary repeater for Benton County is the Vail Weather Repeater Tower.
Now, we are in a situation right here. Our weather forecast comes from the National Weather Service office down in Memphis. We're here in the location on the Tennessee River where we get our main sources of news from the national television stations, and we depend upon those fine folks up there for weather information, of course. But is that somewhat of a problem when you have Memphis predicting our weather forecast and we're getting weather out of national TV stations?
It was, and that was one of the first things that we addressed. We seen that shortcoming, and at the time, Mayor Lashley was mayor, and the National Weather Service office holds a severe weather action day every year. And I'm a regular to go to it. It's weather enthusiast. It's a lot of what pertains to us. And at the time, I drug Mayor Lashley because we knew we had this shortcoming back then where, we weren't getting enough coverage, we felt. So at the time, I drug Mayor Lashley with me on a Saturday morning. It was a cold, cold morning. And he's going to go talk to a bunch of weather geeks and TV meteorologists. But when we left there, he had taken the time to speak to each and every media lead meteorologist and say, hey, look, guys, we're out of the Memphis office, but our news is coming from you guys. So now it's gotten a lot better, a lot better. Now you can see us on their weather maps, and they'll bring up Camden. 4 years ago, that wasn't the case. So the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's what this is all about, the weather radar. The reason we're getting the radar is, yes, because we're located right in the middle of a big, area where radar drops out. Nobody at the current time, no matter what radar you're using, nobody can see anything below 5,000 feet. Nobody.
Now, in this area, again, and sometimes does the radars, whether it's coming out of Memphis or Nashville, Paducah, do those radars sometimes overlap, and does that cause problems?
No, that's actually the point.
Okay.
You want a little overlap. Let's say the tornado that went through the south end of the county. On radar, it was clearly indicated that there was broad rotation that was narrowing going over the south end, the Holiday end of the county. Well, with redundant radar, I can look at that from multiple views, and I can actually see what's happening inside the storm versus looking at from one radar, which was down actually at the time. The Memphis radar was down, regrettably, for that. When that was happening, the National Weather Service was actually operating off of the Paducah radar system because theirs had taken a direct lightning hit. So we had no radar coming from Nashville at that point, or from Memphis at that point. So everybody had to swap over. But when they overlap and you can see the storm from different angles, it better helps you judge what's actually happening. Because just because we're seeing a little rotation on one angle, there may be nothing on the other. So.
Well, I heard last night watching TV weather reports out of Memphis, which station I was on, but they were talking about, National Weather Service sending teams out to assess the damage. A lot of places in Middle Tennessee had personnel from Weather Service come out, and they mentioned that Benton County, also had a group out of Memphis, some assessors out of Memphis to come. So this system that moved through a couple of days ago, Ben, how significant was it, and did the Weather Service personnel out of Memphis, did they find any damages here from what they're assessing?
Per the assessment by the survey team that was out yesterday, the primary investigation and inspection, there was no damage. The storm never touched down. It was up in the sky, simply rotating. There was no, I spoke with Mr. Key. I had spotters right there. I've got multiple spotters right there in the area. And as a matter of fact, Scott Hill was mobile at that time as it was coming through. No damage. We've got zero damage reports. Most of the damage that I seen was a little further south from us, and I think Lawrenceburg took a pretty bad hit.
Weather Service personnel, they get out pretty quick. They get out pretty quick after a storm goes through, don't they?
The reason is that that's the only way they can get a true assessment. People tend to clean up right away. They don't want to be holding you up. They need to make a determination, and the only way they can tell you how bad a tornado was by seeing the damage.
And the importance, of course, is very important for assessments, but what does this mean in the long run when they come in and determine the strength of a storm that moved through? The importance of that maybe to an individual that has damage and, overall to what the Weather Service needs to learn from it.
The thing most people don't realize is the state, insurance companies, your cities, whenever it comes to damage reports, insurance claims especially, FEMA grants, it's all based off of the National Weather Service's survey. Whatever they determine it was is the official, that's what's recognized. So when you're looking especially at like FEMA grants, like when you have a hurricane go through, well, the National Weather Service is the one that's telling them, hey, look, you've got probably 10,000 people that are unsustainable right now. That's when FEMA or whoever, that's where that money starts coming in. On our end, when they get live information, as part of your insurance, you have a safety mod. Everybody has, they assess the risk on your insurance for your home, for your car. That's how they come up with their numbers. When you have an active weather program like this, it affects your safety mod. The code red, the weather radar, all those things come into play. So believe it or not, having a good weather program helps everybody in the county's safety and their bottom line.
Yep. Well, from time to time, after an assessment is done, the Weather Service may determine that a system moved through, and they call it straight line wind damage, more so than tornado damage. So really,
believe it or not,
yeah.
Believe it or not, straight line wind causes a lot more damage than tornadoes. Tornadoes are in a relatively small path. We'll say 100 yards wide. It's long, but it's in a relatively small path. Straight line winds, they could be 10 miles long, and it's just a steady push. And it's just going, and long-term events are called the ratios. That's a whole nother ball of wax. They can go hundreds of miles in a 10-mile wide path with winds going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. And it's just pushing. It's just the storm system pushing, creating pressure downward and pushing out. And they can run as long as they have energy.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break here in just a moment, and we'll get back into weather spotting, actually what a weather spotter is and how a person can learn to become a weather spotter. We're going to do that in just a moment, but as you and I were talking off the air, heard a lot of comments in the last couple of weeks about balloons. Military shot down some balloons, we know that, and the term weather balloons came back up during that course of the conversation. And are weather balloons, are they still important to the Weather Service?
Very much so. Twice a day. Once in the morning, once in the evening. Out of Nashville, that balloon goes up. That's the truth. Just like the storm spotters, we are the boots on the ground, the proof of what they're seeing on radar. Weather balloon is the same thing for the National Weather Service. Most of the weather programs and everything we see is all computer generated. It's algorithms, it's this, it's that. Well, the weather balloon goes up and it sends back true data so they can compare and make sure everything is right. Just like a storm spotter sitting on the ground can tell them, yeah, we have tornado, yes, we have hail, yes, we have massive flooding. It's the same thing. It's got to be, everything's got to be proofed.
Do they bring the weather balloon down, or does it just go out? It just goes and drifts?
It just drifts, and it pops after a while, and there's a little box. It's actually cardboard. It's a little box with the equipment in it, and it's got a already stamped label on it and a return address, and they ask if people see it, drop it in the mailbox, and they'll get it back.
Interesting, very interesting then. And again, I guess, that opened up a lot of people's eyes. It opened up my eyes a couple of weeks ago when I heard it then, and I thought, that with the sophistication then, I thought maybe weather balloons for weather information might be a thing of the past, but it's still very relevant.
It's very, very. And like the last hurricane that went down through Florida, the Storm Prediction Center put out a notice, and everybody basically on the East Coast as part of a study. It went from the East Coast all the way to like the middle of the United States. Every National Weather Service station that does balloons, they asked them to increase because they're trying to study more and more on these hurricanes and how it affects the weather pattern going all the way across the country, not just the coast anymore. They want to know what's going on all the way midway through the country so it helps them better assess things. So that was the first time I've seen anything like that in the 20 plus years I've been doing it.
Well, yeah, regardless of where you're getting your weather information, where it comes off NOAA Weather Radio, one of the TV stations in Nashville, we go to the Ben Richardson Facebook page, regardless of where you're getting that weather information from, ultimately, the major source is National Weather Service.
End of the day, they're the leading drive for everybody. They probably 3-4 times a day, that's all they're doing is looking at the forecast, looking at assessing, reassessing. They have a lead forecaster there whose whole job is he becomes the man in charge during storm systems. He may have 6 or 8, depends on how big of a storm system coming in. He may have 6 or 8 people below him, but at the end of the day, until he says it happened, it didn't happen.
Well, I tell you what, interesting program this morning with Ben Richardson, and we're going to take a break right now for our sponsors, Apex Bank. Be back with the second portion of Operation 7570. Stay with us.
Apex Bank of Camden, proudly serving the Benton County community since 1931. In recent years, through growth and expansion, we've taken that same local community spirit into other markets. Today, with over 20,000 customers across Tennessee, our business philosophy remains the same. Local people making local decisions, serving our friends and customers, and investing in the communities that we serve. Here for you yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Apex Bank of Camden, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Coordinator.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen, on Operation 7570. With us today, our friend Ben Richardson is with us. Ben keeps us updated on weather information through his Facebook page. And give us a shout out right now. Talk about your Facebook page and who can join.
Anybody can join. It's called The Weather and Nothing But for Benton and Henry counties. But basically, we do the 6 counties around us. A lot of folks say, they compliment on just how accurate our weather page is, and they can't say enough. The reason is we took a completely different page. You keep calling it like my page. It's actually not my page. It's every member's page. Every member of that page has as much say as any of the rest of us do. At the end of the day, radar is a great tool, and it works well. But nothing beats a set of eyes on the ground. And we've taken a different outlook on it. And most people, they look at the radar, they make their own decisions, they put that out there. We stick with nothing but National Weather Service information, and all we're looking for is storm reports, neighbors helping neighbors. I have storm spotters down in Decatur, I have storm spotters in Henry County, but I have people just like you on the page. And when it's hailing, Bobby, you're going to let us know because you're a neighbor looking out for neighbor. And that's what the page is all about. It's neighbors looking out for neighbors during severe weather events.
Well, let's just talk about what is the definition of a weather spotter, and how do you become a weather spotter through National Weather Service?
National Weather Service Memphis offers spotter classes in the spring and sometimes in the fall as well. Anybody can be a weather spotter. I mean, the National Weather Service would prefer if it was an adult, but kids can take the class as well for general information. You have to take a class. Your basic class is about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. Mostly, there's no real test at the end. It's kind of more informational. But that way they know you've taken some time, they've trained you some stuff, and that way when you're seeing stuff, they know a report from you coming in as a trained spotter. Well, they take that a little more serious.
Are there levels of weather spotters, basic, advanced, and how does that work?
There's the levels that anybody on my spotter network that I oversee. There's the basic, which is an hour and a half. There's the advanced. That's the next class. That one you have a test at the end of generally. It's not bad, 10 questions, somewhere along that line, 2.5, 3 hours. Then you have the elite. As far as the National Weather Service goes, that's the top of the line. The elite class is 4 hours long, and there is a test at the end. You need an 80 or better to pass. It's just the way it is, and you're only allowed to take the test once a year or twice. You're allowed to take one recap, and if you don't pass, then you have to wait till the next year. And then on the national level, there's a National Spotter Network certification. That gets you recognized across the whole United States.
How can persons watching us or listening to us today, Ben, how can they find out about when classes might be offered or how to do it?
Generally speaking, if you go on to either my weather page or the county's EMA weather page, whenever the National Weather Service or even the National Weather Service Facebook page, whenever they announce the classes, they post it out there. Now, there's two types of classes. They have virtual, where you can do it in the comfort of your own home, spend an hour and a half watching your computer screen like you're doing anyway, watching TV, or they have them in person. If you get a chance to go to the in-person one, like you experienced, the experience is I almost say it's more exciting. You get a better feel when the National Weather Service spokesperson or forecaster is standing there playing the video in front of you and giving you an in-depth. You know what I mean?
Well, Benton County, you know the demographics of Benton County, how long it is from north to south, east to west on 70, of course. You know the dimensions of Benton County, and one section of Benton County can be crystal clear, and the other one, all heck's breaking loose, the other section. And you've experienced that.
Oh, many times. That's why we have 25 spotters in our local spotter network. And again, all part of the Storm Safe community that you were part of. We have 25 right now spotters that are spread out between Henry County, Decatur, Benton, Carroll. I mean, we've got the area pretty well covered. And the thing is, every one of us have our own personal weather stations. So simply and I've posted it on the page before, simply by clicking on that and expanding the map, you can see all of our weather stations, and you can see it plain as day. Brad may be sunny and clear down there in Holiday while I'm getting thunderstorms up by me. I've seen temperature variance of 20 plus degrees going from one end of the county to the other.
We may hear, I think television last night, warm up coming up this first part of the week, as a matter of fact, and toward the end of the week, maybe going to be drop again, of course. And, sometimes when we hear reports like this, maybe not necessarily for this coming week, but what I'm getting at, we may hear weather personnel give us the short-range forecast, and they say, well, next weekend, we might ought to be prepared. We've got a system that could possibly bring us some snowy weather then. If you hear a report like that, when do you and Brad and your staff, when do you really start paying more attention? It's 5-6 days out, but when do you really start looking at it closely?
72 hours. Anything more than 72 hours away is guessing. I look at long-term models all the time. Like, for instance, right now, like Brad, myself, and the people on the Spotter Network, we're watching that system that's coming in about midway through the week. As of last week, it was potentially severe, stronger than the one that just went through. As it gets closer to the day, we're watching it drop off more and more and more and more and more. The National Weather Service themselves will tell you their likelihood percentages tend to climb within the 72-hour period. That way, everything is starting to come together. We can ground truth everything. That's the difference with ground truthing. Because it's not a computer program telling you what it is. You have people actually there that can compare what the forecast and what the models are saying to what's actually going on, and that's how they adjust accordingly.
Yeah. Well, going back several weeks ago to the Christmas weekend, and of course, weather changes in Tennessee. We know that. It can change in a 24-hour period, but even that system that moved through, the drop in temperatures and the freeze below zero temperatures, that was even more extreme for us, was it, than normal?
I definitely. I mean, we've had them before. I think it was 86. You guys had a real nasty one. I was still in the Army, but I heard you guys were without power in some areas for like 3-4 weeks on that one. But any amount of ice is bad. You get a tenth of an inch of ice, and somebody's going off the road, and people just don't. I don't know why. They're always in a hurry. I got to get to work. Okay. Well, there's ice on the ground. Leave a little earlier. Don't wait till the last minute to jump in your car and think you're going to speed down the road. It's inevitable. If there's ice on the road, you shouldn't be driving. But if you have to be driving, leave earlier, slow down, take it easy. If you know you've got huge hills and huge banking turns, find a different route.
Oftentimes, as you know, we'll go outside, we want to go to work. It's just wet. The surface is just wet, but that thin coat could be right there. That
That's
could
it.
give you issues.
That's it, black ice. You can't even see it. You can't even see it. The only way you know you're on black ice is when you're spinning out. And it's something, front-wheel drive cars, I understand, are better about it, but still slide. But rear-wheel cars, by the time you catch it and try to adjust your front steering, your back end's already coming out.
Yeah.
Again, if you don't have to be on the roads, don't.
And even when we have situations where downpours of rain, then, you see some puddling, you see some water on the roadway, be very careful. Don't think you can get to that.
Hydroplane.
Yes, you don't hydroplane.
It takes less than, I want to say it was 3 inches of water to lift the car. It's that big.
Wow.
How many times have you seen, you've been here longer than I have, when we get the flooding over there down the road, and you see the people flying right through.
Mm-hmm.
The thing people don't realize is, just because you've made it through there in the past, what happens if the road's washed out now? You're not going to know that until you're down in there. So now you've got to be saved. So now the sheriff department, EMTs, the rescue, they all have to come out here to rescue you for your poor decision and put themselves in risk.
Yeah. And water from a creek, it can come up in a hurry and go over the roadways and highways and byways. It can get up in a very hurry. Old Depot's a good example of that down there.
Look at New Johnsonville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Ben, I know here later, maybe week after next, National Weather Service, they do it every year in February. Severe Weather Awareness Week is coming up, as a matter of fact. And what is this all about? And
So this is the National Weather Service and the state of Tennessee working together, trying to bring severe awareness to everybody. So it starts on the 19th with the role of the spotter. That's how we start. And they take a week where they go through all of the severe, what affects us in our area. It'll be everything from tornadoes, flash flooding, ice, snow, lightning. Believe it or not, lightning is still a big problem here. That doesn't make sense to me of all the possibilities to get caught outside and just you had no knowledge of it. Lightning tends to, move in from miles away, and you tend to hear it long before it gets to you. So the fact that people are still outside working after hearing lightning, I have no idea. But believe it or not, it still kills more people than just about anything else. And again, information is everything. Education is everything. And that's why we do what we do. One is too many, Bobby. One is too many.
Absolutely.
So part of the Severe Weather Awareness Week, there's going to be a statewide tornado drill February 22nd at 9:30 in the morning. What that means is, like, the larger municipalities, they'll when the alarm bells go off, they'll have the kids go outside or whatever. If they're meant to structure in a shelter, they'll run them to the shelter. If, bigger corporations, the factories, the stuff like that, they participate in that as well. They'll run their people, it's just a way to test your readiness. During good weather, when, you don't have nothing to worry about. That way you can make plans. That's the whole thing, is the awareness of it and to make a plan. In the United States, even with everything we have, the national average right now, from the time a tornado warning is issued to the time it's confirmed on the ground, is just 13 minutes. What everyone is working on is expanding that time. I mean, 13 minutes to some isn't bad, but let's say you're that elderly lady that's living in a trailer with poor cell phone service. 13 minutes, it's not a lot of time.
Of course, you talk about plans. We talk with our good friends at the fire department from time to time. Have a plan in place, heaven forbid, in case a fire was to break out, have that plan. But you've also got to have a plan for all sorts of weather situations and preparing in advance.
Definitely. And we have the Code Red system here that works great. But what happens when a cell tower goes down? Not many people have landlines anymore. I do, but I'm saying not many people do. Weather radios, Walmart, $30, I believe. Nothing is faster to receive a notification than the weather radio.
And these weather radios, we've talked about this before, Ben, but now they have gotten to as technology has changed, they've improved, of course, whereby, they are more localized is what I'm trying to say. I mean,
it's called same code.
Yes. Back when I first got my radio, hey, if there was a tornado warning in Memphis, the alarm might go off, and, I'm not,
exactly.
I'm not, being critical of that, but anything, but now they're more localized.
Yes, now they have what's called the same code. It works off the same principle that the Code Red does. You see them on TV all the time. The National Weather Service, when they issue watches and warnings or information statements, they always have that box called the polygon of the affected area. Well, the same code on your weather radio is basically, it locks in a smaller area, the same way the Code Red does. So let's say like that tornado warning that was issued for Holiday. Well, if it's not going to affect Big Sandy, why are we going to scare the people in Big Sandy? That would make no sense. And after too many nuisance calls, people, as we know, become complacent. Oh, yeah, it's just another one. Oh, yeah, it's just another one. With these same codes now, they zero in and they only alert the people in that box. That's the Code Red system works the same way because it works directly off the National Weather Service polygon. So the days when you were getting tornado warnings when the storm was in Memphis, those are long over, as long as you get the weather radio with the same code. Because then you just push in your simple same code and you won't get nothing until it's your time.
Now, speaking of Code Red, how can people sign up for Code Red if they don't have it?
You can go to, we've made that so easy now, Bobby. You can go to the county EMA page, you can go to the county page, you can go to the power company, the Benton County Electric page. You can go anywhere you want. You can go on our weather page. There's links there everywhere. And if you have any questions whatsoever, contact Mr. Key at the EMA, contact Justin Whipple, E911, contact me on the weather page, and we will gladly walk you through. It's real simple. All you got to do is put your information in there, and it sends out that notification, as you found out. As soon as we get it, it goes out. It's automatic. Now, like with the power outages and that stuff, the updates that you were getting from the power company, from Benton County Electric, those have to manually be typed in. So those may take a little longer, you know what I mean, than an emergency situation. An emergency situation, they're automatic and they go out right away.
We mentioned, I think, earlier in the program, Ben, talking about the weather radar that the county commission approved last summer that's coming in very soon. What's the update on that weather radar and what will that mean for us?
And this is this is taken us some work. We fought hard for this, Bobby. We fought hard for this. But as of the last update that I have, they've already started construction. The concrete pad is poured. They're setting the generator. They're looking at a completion of middle of March. That's the latest I have. The latest information from Climax is they're going to have it up and running by the middle of March.
And you're going to have access to it, of course, but who's going to have access to this, and how will that help us?
The people that have, this is a private company that has come in to fill this radar gap. What they do is they sell their data to TV stations, to radio stations, to this, to that, to everybody. Well, since we're allowing them access to the water tower to put this radio station in, the county EMA, the county officials will say Mark Ward and Richard Key and Justin Whipple, they will make the determination. But my understanding of the agreement is the county doesn't pay for anything. Nothing. So that means your school teachers, your school principals, you were a dispatcher, your dispatches, county, Camden, just anybody at a county emergency response level having access to that will shave time. And that's why, as we've talked numerous times, that's what this is all about, shaving time. And them having access to that radio, especially you of anybody would know, if you could save 5 minutes on a dispatch call, how big would that be in your world?
Absolutely. All the difference in the world in an emergency situation. Time is of the essence.
If you were that principal at the school making the decision, knowing storms are coming in, whether or not to let them school buses run or hold them back 10 minutes, how big of a deal would that be?
Outstanding. Wow. Awesome. Awesome.
This is what we fought for.
Yeah. Well, we've had a good discussion this morning, Ben, and I appreciate you giving up some Saturday morning, but are we missing anything? You brought some notes.
Well,
is there anything you want to bring out that we hadn't discussed so far?
I just wanted to bring up, this year is what's known as a triple dip La Nina, that we've talked about the synoptic weather pattern before. It's expected to finally go away.
Yay.
That means the severe weather should be shifting more west, per the research that I've done, somewhere about midsummer or something. So then we'll see a pattern change. Hopefully things will get somewhat back to normal. I wanted to let everybody know a couple things that were important. The last storm system that went through, we actually had 3 tornadoes that we were watching on the weather page, along with several flood advisories and flash flood warnings.
This is just this week. This is
2 or 3
days
past
ago.
month.
Yeah.
All in the midst of that, not many folks realize this, you obviously know, but we had the Vail weather repeater go down. We had to shift everything within 2 hours. When the storms first entered Memphis, the National Weather Service radar was struck by lightning. We had to shift everything to Paducah. All in all, every notification still made it out. Every citizen still got alerted when everything that could have failed did fail. That's why we have the triple redundant communication system. That's why we have the code red system. That's why we have all these things put in place. And knock on wood, they all worked out.
Yeah, and it's most important, you touched on it right here, and that's a good example, Ben. It's more important to have more than one source of weather information in case your television goes out, your direct TV dish goes out, when you're watching it. You've got to have more than one source of weather information.
And as of now, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I'd like you to take a minute and think about it. You notice your response times from Benton County Electric has changed dramatically? Well, at Mr. Scott Owen's request, he is now directly briefed by the National Weather Service, the same way I am. This was, we've been briefing him as part of the Storm Safe community. His office had been getting briefings, but now he's getting direct briefings. So when I get that briefing 2 days before a storm system, he gets that same briefing. He can plan accordingly. He can have people on standby. It's just, again, it's all about communication and education. Now, the last thing, and this is kind of a big one. You mentioned partners and how we're all working together on this. The National Weather Service has a slogan that says, be prepared, not scared. A lot of people have a lot of anxiety from storms. I don't know if you noticed, but you might want to go over and talk to them, Bobby, because Cary Counseling, our local Cary Counseling office, has released a 3-part video on nothing but storm anxiety. Anybody can look it up on YouTube. They've done the time, they put a video out for storm anxiety, that the partnership. All of us working together with one goal in mind.
Well, I'll check that out then, and we appreciate the folks at Cary for doing that, of course, then. And, of course, now, I don't like storms. Nobody likes storms, especially, when the... Yeah, but now, even when a dark cloud moves over, those people at Waverly, the anxiety that they get based upon what they went through a year and a half ago, as a matter of fact, then. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, when you say... See, I like storms. I've spent a lot of time educating, and the difference is when I first started this, I would drive 1,500 miles to go chase. Now they're chasing me.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Ben, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for what you do with us up here at WRJB to keep us weather alert, weather safe, and everything. Mm-hmm. Thanks to you and Brad and everybody with the Weather Spotter Network. One final time, the Facebook page, not your Facebook page, but
the weather Facebook and nothing but for Benton and Henry counties. But even if you can't find us or if you haven't been sent there, the county EMA now posts a lot of stuff, and depending on the severity, even the county page, Facebook page, will post.
And as we go along, each weather situation, we learn something from the latest weather situation that's going to help us in the long run down the road.
And that's how it works. The patterns, we follow patterns, and that's basically all of it. Believe it or not, just simply looking back on history, it doesn't lock it in stone, but it gives us a real good idea.
Ben, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being with us today. I
Anytime.
appreciate you. All right.
Anytime.
Ben Richardson, our guest this morning, ladies and gentlemen, on Operation 7570. Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks to our sponsor, Apex Bank. Thanks to Luke Crutchfield and our other studios, like always, on Saturday mornings. He'll be with you in just a moment or so with the bargain auction. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday morning.
For more than 85 years, Apex Bank of Camden has built a tradition of local people serving local people. Although there have been changes